Well, hello YouTube, it's me, Fortmaster, and welcome back to another film theory reaction, and, well, it's another one about the Amazing Circus. Game theory, Pomni is destined to die. Okay, I mean, that's certainly a declaration to make, but yeah, okay, so out of the two glitch shows, the fact that Digital Circus hasn't even had a second episode out yet, and they've already made another theory about it? Well, okay then. Yeah, what does that mean? What do they mean by die exactly? Do they mean like die in the sense that they literally just die completely? Like, are they working off the theory that they're somehow still plugged into the Amazing Digital Circus and she'll be the first to die of just in general? Or is she going to be the next one to abstract? Because, you know, with some of these shows, I mean, you could argue that they could try to be, you know, different by having, you know, these quote-unquote main character, you know, be the first one to die. Though that being said, that does kind of make me think of that whole thing of, I forgot what video I was talking about it in, but it was a story or like a show idea somebody was talking about, where basically the original group of characters you have at the beginning of the show or setting or whatever doesn't survive until the end. So by the end of the show, the group of people you're following are just completely different than the ones that you started with. So I don't know, maybe they'll just, I mean, if they're trying to be different, maybe the Amazing Digital Circus will be something like that. Though then again, I mean, I was gonna say Gooseworks hasn't put out any special designs or anything like that besides Pomni having a unicorn horn, but I somehow doubt that'll be a part of the show. Anyway, well, MatPat's team have done a good job already, based purely on the fact that I'm hooked and want to see where this video goes, purely based on the title. So yeah, with all that being said, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it yet for some reason. Corner video will lead to my game theory reaction. And if you like any of the stuff that I put out, whether it's reaction or let's plays, I would very much like it if you would subscribe to the channel. Just, you know, seeing that number go up does make me feel good. Please. So yeah, with all that out of the way, let's get this thing started then, shall we?
Well, hello there! Welcome, welcome! Please come in. I know this might not be what you were expecting, but you and I, we're going to go on so many adventures! We're going to have so much fun.
Oh, okay.
Forever and ever and ever and ever and ever.
Hello, Internet.
Again, I'm still going off what Gooseworks said and saying that, Kane is like a kind AI who just doesn't know how to deal with humans long term. But then again, I mean, not knowing how to deal with humans, I could see that going in some very, very bad places.
Internet, welcome to Film Theory, the show that's here to show you the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending theories you can imagine. In case you missed our last theory on the Amazing Digital Circus, the long and short of it is that we believe that the circus here isn't exactly what it appears to be. Instead of some futuristic, fully immersive experience, we believe that it's actually a VR video game from the 1990s, one that copies the brains of anyone who puts on the headset. It then turns that copy into a digital character to go on adventures throughout the circus. So the people trapped in this world looking for an exit, they're not actually people, just digital copies of their
yeah, I remember that.
Their personalities. That's why we repeatedly see workstations of VR headsets in the first episode, but with no one actually wearing the headsets. And our theories,
I mean, repeatedly? We only saw it once, well, twice if you count towards the end at the end credits.
Didn't stop there. We continued by saying that Pomni is either the creator of the game or an employee at the development studio making the game, as evidenced by our mental breakdown when seeing those work desks. And while this is the direction that I still believe the series is headed for,
how about we talk about something else?
You see, there's still a ton to dig into here with the Digital Circus. Well, sure, those initial theories are the ones that I think are the most likely and the most intentional. It's once to stretch a bit further out that some of the truly fun, wacky ideas really start to develop. Are they right?
Oh, wonderful.
Probably not. Are they interesting and fun? Absolutely. And therein lies the beauty of theory crafting. For example, last time I briefly tossed out a bit of wild speculation that the Digital Circus may have itself some biblical connection connections.
Yeah,
In this
Cain.
brief scene exploring the back rooms of the company who seemingly created the circus, we see the initials C and A painted onto the wall. C made
Cain
me
and
immediately
Abel.
connect things back to our lovable AI ringleader Cain, a guy who's probably the most in control of this entire situation. And if you tend to see the name Cain partnered with the initial A in any sort of pop cultural reference, the first immediate jump is gonna be to the biblical story of Cain and Abel.
Okay, here's what I'm thinking. I'm almost thinking with that they're going to do like something completely different. It's going to be like, and I'm thinking like it's going to be something like completely different, like Codsworth and Alabaster or something like that. Like it's not going to have any like connection to like the Cain and Abel at all. That was just like a red herring or something.
See, Cain and Abel were the children of Adam and Eve, the first humans to ever exist in the Abrahamic religions. At the time, I wasn't really sure if this was meant to be anything or if it was going to lead anywhere, but the more I sat and
yeah,
thought
it's literally
about it,
the
more
first
connections
episode
that I started to make. Some of those connections were admittedly very dumb. For example, in biblical canon, Cain kills Abel and becomes the first murderer. And what does Cain do multiple times throughout the pilot? He pops bubble for comedic effect. Ow! You parasite! Cain kills a bubble, a bull.
Oh my god. A bubble. Okay. Now I'm just wondering if that was like an intentional thing or not. Or if this is just like a really big coincidence.
Coincidence? Absolutely yes. It is single-handedly one of the dumbest things I've ever said in a theory, and I have said a lot of dumb things in theories, but
oh god, yeah, I remember Mario as a communist.
other parallels that I found as I was doing this little brain search through the episode again were a lot more compelling. In fact, some connections were so large that I believe I may have just cracked the question of what the digital circus is wide open. You see, loyal theorists, the Amazing Digital Circus isn't just some mere video game that's trapped these consciousnesses. No, it's something much darker. It's
okay. I'm gonna try to call this. I'm gonna guess what he's gonna say next. I'm gonna guess that he's gonna say that the Amazing Digital Circus is in fact purgatory. Or hell. Probably purgatory.
It's an eternity of torment and torture. The Amazing Digital Circus is, quite literally, hell. Put on your headsets and get your randomly generated names, my friends.
Okay, well, I guess I was partially right. Though, what does that mean with the abstractions? Like, are they being sent to like a lower level of hell or something?
We're going in. So the claim that the digital circus is literally hell is a pretty bold one, so why would I possibly make it? Well, look at this. At the very end of the pilot, here we're shown all the human characters sitting at a table while eating food. But you notice anything weird about their dining arrangement? Of all the ways they could have set up this table, they're all on the one side. Character on just one side. All of them facing the same direction, out at us, the audience. When this is done in fiction, it's rarely by mistake, because this right here, this is a very iconic framing device from one of the most famous paintings ever made, The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci. This depicts the final meal of Jesus and his followers shared before his crucifixion. It's been the backbone of conspiracy theories and Dan Brown novels for centuries. Gooseworks, creator of the series, and all the other creatives over at Glitch, they're smart people. They wouldn't be using this imagery without understanding the historical baggage that comes along with it. And it's not just the table layout that's worth calling out here. Look at Pomni in the center, the exact position that Jesus is in for the painting. And notice the colors of Pomni, red and blue. Wouldn't it be weird if, oh wait, never mind, Jesus is also dressed in red and blue. The interpretation of his colors is that the blue represents the divine half of God, heaven, and his red represents the blood, mankind. So in Jesus, you have the mixing of these two elements, a God born amongst men and set to live as a human, red plus blue. And in Pomni, we actually have something similar, at least if our earlier theories were correct. A creator of this developer, a god of this world, if you will, now set to live as a part of their own creation. And it's not like religion is completely absent from this world either. Quite the contrary. We know for a fact that God exists in the circus in some form or another. During the first adventure that Cain sets up for Pomni, the Gloink Queen says this:
I am Gloinks. You will be Gloinks. God will be Gloinks.
What an oddly specific thing to say.
So, was she being literal, or was that just being dramatic for the effect?
Speaking of making oddly specific references that we can build off of, let's talk about abstraction.
Okay, yeah, this is what I was wondering.
Obsess over being trapped in the circus and drive yourself crazy looking for a way out.
Eventually you get to asking what the point of anything is, and you completely lose sight of who you are and why you're even alive, and when you reach your breaking point, something really terrible can happen.
This is known as abstraction, and we see the results of it when we meet Kaufmo the Clown, or at least what's
left of him, yeah.
Cosmo's been obstructed.
Last time, I wasn't really sure if we had enough to really make a judgment over what was happening here, but I did find some more information when digging through the creator Gooseworks' Tumblr. According to her, abstracting isn't just going crazy and becoming a big scary monster. It's definitely part of it for sure, but there is a deeper meaning. According to Gooseworks, when you abstract, you lose everything about yourself. You're stripped of every single scrap of individuality that you become something unrecognizable.
And you just become a giant blob of, you know, an abstract shape. Okay.
Abstracted people look the same. This glitchy four-legged monster covered in eyeballs. And perhaps most importantly, abstraction cannot be undone. Now, looking back over the series with this new lens of religious imagery, the abstracted start resembling something else. Something beyond just monsters. They almost look like angels. Well, not really angels, more biblically accurate angels.
Oh,
which, ironically
okay.
enough, doesn't really come from the Bible. Let me explain, it's kind of confusing. 3 years ago, a meme started spreading across the internet featuring these monstrous multi-eyed creatures. They were called biblically accurate angels. Now, you might look at these things and go, really? They don't exactly look like the traditional image of an angel with robes and wings and halos and all that. But what they're riffing on here is a very specific part of the Bible. A few chapters in the book of Ezekiel where he describes having visions of winged creatures with 4 faces, some human, some animal, and these creatures were joined by wheels within wheels with eyes. Here's a version of the quote. I looked, and I saw beside the cherubim 4 wheels, one beside each of the cherubim. Their entire bodies, including their backs, their hands, and their wings, were completely full of eyes, as were their 4 wheels. Now, for the sake of clarity, the wheels with eyes, or ophonym, both are and aren't considered angels depending on what documents you're using and how you're classifying things. And again, all of this is based on a few very short lines in a very long, very ancient religious tradition, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that these religious entities are always described as having an abnormal number of eyes all over their bodies, just like the abstracted that we're seeing in Digital Circus. The weird descriptions even fit with the name abstraction. These so-called biblically accurate angels are weird, almost completely unrecognizable to humans because we can't comprehend what we're witnessing. They're unknowable. In other words, they're abstract. Now, while it's never made clear why these biblical creatures would have so many eyes, one persistent idea is that the design represents God's watchful eye over us. They're always watching us because God knows all. He sees all. Look again at the Digital Circus. There's a ton of eyeball imagery here, all throughout.
Yeah, the glowing queen has like way too many eyes on both of her heads.
Dude, eyes are hidden in the intro, they're hidden in paintings, they're hidden in the background. Kane even admits that he wants all the cast to stay in the circus,
where I can keep my
hundreds of all-seeing eyes on you.
Kane, an omniscient character who knows everything, a god of sorts. And what's he made of? Basically a mouth and 2 big ol' eyes. Oh, and looking at Kane's dialogue through this more religious lens makes this line hit a whole lot different.
Do you like adventure, activity, wonder, danger, horror, pain, suffering, agony, death, disease, death, angel food cake?
Ow! Not only does suffering, agony, and death all sound very hellish, but why
yes, very
angel food cake? Like, why call out that specific type of cake here? Again, we have ourselves a weird connection to angels and religion that comes seemingly out of nowhere. But the most compelling reason for why we can draw parallels between this series and all these religious ideas has to be the way that the creator Gooseworks talks about the Digital Circus. When asked if anyone in the series would be
seeing Gooseworks' avatar with a mouth, that is weird.
killed, Gooseworks answered that it depends on your definition of kill, which is likely pointing to the idea of abstraction.
Yeah,
but it's interesting that she makes this distinction. It means that none of these characters can die, so to speak. They're trapped in here forever in eternal torment, just like hell. Gooseworks also talks about how characters deserve to be there, specifically calling out Jax as the one who deserves to be there the most. Using the phrase deserves to be there, it shows that the circus is some place of judgment. It's either a reward for those who are good or a punishment for those who are evil.
Yeah, and Jax is definitely a jerk.
Things to say about Jax. This ain't your reward day at the spa. Time and time again, Gooseworks has gone on the record to say how awful Jax is. According to Gooseworks, Jax is morally the worst character in the show, so much so that when asked if he was more of a jerk or an anti-hero, she explained that, quote, there's absolutely nothing heroic about Jax. Those are some pretty strong words for a character that you yourself created. When another fan
yeah, I mean, granted, again, we've had like one episode of him, but I would not classify anything he did as anti-hero. That was all very much at the cost of anybody else, like stuff he did, or just for his own amusement. I mean, again, he threw the bowling ball at Kinger. I don't imagine that being, you know, even with the cartoony sound effects and stuff, I don't imagine that being very, you know, I meant it being quite painful.
Commented that they hoped Jax was gonna get worse. Gooseworks said, "You're probably gonna enjoy some of the things we have planned." And already the behavior that we've seen from him throughout the series is pretty awful. He's mean, he trips people, he knocks them over, he steps on one of Gangle's masks without caring. He knows that Ragatha's deepest fear is centipedes, and he uses that information to torture her.
By the way, I may have left something in your room today, so let me know if you find it. You're not afraid of centipedes, are you?
Jax! That's literally my only fear. Why would you do this?
Jax is clearly not a good person. So if Gooseworks is saying that he deserves to be in the circus more than most, then it clearly implies that we're trapped in hell. But just because they're in hell...
Yeah, I was just about to say, like, if this... Okay, let's go with the flow here and say, what if the digital circus is, like, literally hell? Like, what did everybody else do to get there? I mean, we haven't really met, like, Kaufmo at all. We met him, like, through abstraction. I mean, Pomni seems nice enough, if a little stressed, and that might just be more to the fact that, you know, she's in the digital circus and she's still new and hasn't gotten used to the place yet. Ragatha just seems, you know, generally kind and helpful and, you know, and mindful of others. I mean, Zubul is kind of very much, like, dismissive of everybody else. But she wasn't, well, they, technically, they weren't, like, mean or anything. They were just more, like, dismissive of everything, like they were really bored. I mean, again, Kinger seems pretty nice, but, like, it's kind of hard to gauge his personality at the moment, just based on how, like, nuts he is, kind of based on, like, how long he's been there. And, again, Gangle seems nice enough, but she just seems, like, very, you know, like, emotional or something like that. Like, by this logic, if they're actually in hell, what did anybody other than Jax do to deserve to be there?
Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be your typical fire and brimstone hell. Case in point, one of the most influential depictions of hell comes from a play by French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, known as Huis Clos, or translated into English, No Exit. In it, 3 people condemned to hell are brought into the same room and locked inside, but instead of a torture chamber, they just find a comfortably furnished room. Not exactly what you'd expect, right? But as these 3 start talking and getting to know each other, they realize they don't click. They annoy each other, they push each other's buttons, and they twist the knife until one of them realizes this is the torture. A famous line from the play reads, "Hell is other people." That sounds exactly
is that
like
where that
what
comes
we see
from?
here in the digital circus. It's 6 people who don't necessarily click with one another, and no matter how polite they are, they all still push each other's buttons. They exploit each other's fears and fake laugh at each other's jokes. But the worst part of all, there's no exit. Trapped in a digital room with no escape. But now to the big question. What's the point? It's all interesting for sure, but why bring up all these parallels? Well, if...
And again, the only person that seems to really deserve to be there is, you know, Jax.
We can point to all these religious ideas to show what the digital circus is and how they're going to be using it in the story. We can also use them to point to where the story is headed. Specifically, I believe that we can use the religious imagery to get a pretty good idea of what Pomni's story arc is going to be. You see, Pomni is digital circus's parallel to Jesus Christ. I know that sounds insane. Sounds crazy enough for one of those Matt Pat out of context compilations that I see floating around.
Oh, God. Like, what, is she gonna die for their sins or something? Great, we have no idea. That's the whole thing with this show, like, we have no idea, unlike Murder Drones, if there's going to be a second season or if it's just going to be like a self-contained single season of something. Or maybe they'll do the thing where, like, it's almost like an arcology? No, it's not a word. You know, one of those shows where, like, each season is based on, like, a different group of characters where they're not, like, related from season to season or whatever. I'm forgetting the actual name of that, I'm sorry.
But the connections are there when you actually stop and look at them. I mean, think back to what I pointed out earlier about the last
the
supper
fact she's
scene.
in the
Pomni
center of the
is framed
table.
as the one in the center, exactly where Jesus is sitting in the painting. Her color scheme matches Jesus's. His robes are split between 2 colors, red and blue, just like Pomni's jester outfit. Additionally, we have to consider Pomni's hand. About halfway through the episode, when the abstracted Kaufmo attacks Ragatha and makes her glitch, Pomni tries to help her and gets her hand glitched in the process. This plot line is actually left unresolved at the end of the episode, with Cain fixing Ragatha Agatha, but not Pomni, who keeps the glitching hand a secret.
No, because her hand was fixed as well at the end. It wasn't glitching anymore.
In Christianity, wounds or scars on your hand like this usually reference a very specific thing, stigmata. These are representative of the wounds that Jesus got when he was being hammered onto the cross, usually depicted as scars on your hands. Another connection to Pomni. And if our previous theory is correct and Pomni's human persona is an employee of the company behind the Digital Circus, well, she's the developer of this game. That would make her the creator. And just like Jesus is an aspect of God in many sects of Christianity, that would make Pomni an aspect of a god or creator of this world. Heck, her arc in the very first episode, forgetting who she is so that the information can be dramatically revealed to her later on. It even follows what Jesus went through in biblical texts, beginning life as a human before having to discover for himself that he is in fact the Son of God, discovering his purpose to save humanity from themselves. And this is why I think we have to care about all this, why we started looking at all these religious parallels in the first place. If the Digital Circus is indeed designed to be hell, and everyone here is condemned to be there in some way, and Pomni suddenly comes in as a representative of Jesus, well, she's there to save them, to help the other cast members escape from this torment that they found themselves in Pomni's creation. But in the cruelest twist of fate, saving them is gonna doom Pomni. If I was a betting man, I'd say that Pomni will be the only one left in the Digital Circus after she's helped all the others to escape. Just like Jesus sacrificed himself for humanity, Pomni is gonna do the same thing here. She's gonna get left behind, forever tortured by this wacky AI going on his silly adventures. But it'll have been worth it because she'll manage to save everyone else. But hey,
well, I can certainly say that's one of Matt Pat's more out there theories. But I mean, at this point, like, besides the episode, what else do we have other than just theories? So, I mean, he does bring up a fair number of points, but yeah, I honestly, like, don't know. It's so weird. I mean, granted, we're just gonna have to see, aren't we? Of course, as always, original video is linked in the description if you haven't seen it for some reason. Corner video will lead to my Let's Play of the day. And with all that being said, I hope you guys liked. If you did, leave a like, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.